you've asked me just to come along and share something about the issues of human trafficking in this current crisis, an issue that won't be new to many of you. I know from previous conversations that these concerns have arisen in the context of other nationals as well. But what we're hearing from Caritas and others is that amidst the kind of extraordinary outpouring of a public response, the traffickers are getting in the mix and targeting young women traveling alone or with children, and also targeting unaccompanied minors, but also men. And they're using all sorts of deception, offering accommodation, transport support to get the victim to accompany them. And that's the point when they're at greatest risk. And they're not easy to identify. You know, they look and come from the place and will infiltrate into initiatives. So, I mean, just very briefly, in terms of what human trafficking is, there's an act which is recruiting, transporting, harbouring the victims. And they do this by force, threat, deception, I think will be a very key issue in this area, and abduction and so on. And they're doing it for exploitation and profit, forced labour, sexual exploitation, and so forth. I will be sending notes afterwards and resources, so no need to capture this now. I will make sure that comes to you through Andrew. But I've been working with Caritas Internationalis, and very helpful advice that they're putting out for Ukrainian refugees. Just useful things to know, but protecting the identification and keeping your documents with you, not handing them over, because once you've lost them, then you're at great risk as a refugee. Not sharing the personal phone, not giving it to anybody, always registering wherever they arrive, the local authority or local organisation. And this one I think is really interesting. If someone unknown offers you a lift, take a photo of the person and the vehicle and send that to someone you trust. So there's a kind of a follow-up chain should anything go wrong. But also about notifying local authorities if staying in a non-official accommodation. And of course, contacting police if there's a concern, an emergency, suspicious person. And crucially knowing the National Anti-Trafficking Hotline. And I'll share with you afterwards, this, for example, is a leaflet that Caritas is putting out with those cautionary points, but also the hotlines in different countries. But also advice for chaplaincies. Many of you are very aware of this, about knowing the risks of human trafficking in your own national hotline, and making sure that staff and volunteers are aware, but also using safe recruitment practices just to be sure that nobody with bad intent can infiltrate. Providing the information, but also about trafficking, but also where it's available, about what are the verified official transportation accommodation issues. So, for example, Caritas gives out leaflets on this at the borders. And trying to locate so that you know in your own context where are the centralized official information sources about transport, accommodation, and so on. If there are Ukrainians in the community, do contact them so that they can help with language and so on. But as others have stressed about connecting ecumenically, and Caritas especially has great expertise in this area. Again, reporting any concerns, but also I think a point about safeguarding the congregation. This is organised crime, and so we need to be very aware of making sure the congregation themselves are also safe. So notes will follow, but the kind of place to find the hotline information, for example, is the European Freedom Network. But just to stress that you're not alone. This is an ecumenical and an interfaith commitment. This was a meeting in Rome back in 2014, but you can see the Roman Catholics there, Orthodox, Anglicans, and many others. And over the last 8-9 years, Anglicans, Caritas have been working together in the Salvation Army, and Caritas runs an anti-trafficking network called CurtNet, which is a great source of information. But also importantly, we have the CLUR initiative, which is the Church of England initiative. Unfortunately, Caroline Virgo, its director, couldn't be here today, but they're also working with the World Council of Churches. So there is a lot of ecumenical collaboration and goodwill, which we can pick up on. I spoke yesterday to Bishop Alistair Redfern, who's the chair of the CLUR initiative, and he said that he would be very willing with Caroline, once she's back, if you wanted a session to look at anti-human trafficking in this context, but also do look at their website, which is listed there. I just wanted to conclude saying that you are building, I beg your pardon. you are building yourselves on extraordinary kind of experience that you have in the past. This was the meeting that we had back in 2016. So as Rebecca was talking about, the experience, the skills, the assets, connections, networks, resources, not about doing something radically new, but building on the gifts and assets that you have. So we're absolutely here. It's a wonderful partnership you've got with USPG, and our role at the Anglican Alliance is actually connecting with the wider communion. So the issue that Frank raised about nationals from other countries, I think is something that we can work on together when they are also at risk leaving Ukraine.